So our scripture verse today is one that probably not too many people remember right out, but it's going to be Genesis 21, 22 to 34, and I'm going to read it to you. Genesis 21, starting at verse 22. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phinehas, the chief captain of his host, spake to Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Now therefore swear unto me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, or with my son, or with my son's sons. But according to the kindness I have done to thee, thou shalt do unto me, and to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, Want not I that thou hast done this thing? Neither didst thou tell me, neither yet have I heard of it, but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them to Abimelech, and to both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What meaneth these 7 ewe lambs which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, For these 7 ewe lambs thou shalt take of my hand, that they may be a witness unto me that I have digged this well. Wherefore he called that place Beersheba, because there they swear, both of them. So the title of what I want to talk about tonight, this evening, is actually forgiveness. Forgiveness. Here Abimelech came to Abraham, and he was saying, God is with you. Don't deal falsely with me, okay, and my sons. I've been kind to you. I've shown you goodness, okay? And he says, swear unto me, Abraham. And Abraham says, I swear. Then it goes on to say, Abraham reproved Abimelech because of the well of water, which Abimelech's men violently took away. Okay? Now, deniability from Abimelech. He said, I didn't know of this. Have you ever heard of plausible deniability by anybody? Plausible deniability. This is, well, I haven't heard of such a thing, Abraham. Well, I didn't know about that. Even today, as the words come out of your mouth, I am knowledge of this. Well, I hate to say this, but Abimelech, I don't think, was telling the truth, because he came to Abraham, okay, oh, Abraham, let's, be kind to me as I've been kind to you. So they already knew something going on, okay, and the servants had taken by violence, okay, this well. Now, there was a previous relationship, okay, with Abimelech and Sarah, because Abimelech was king of Gerar, G-E-R-E-A-R. I don't know if I'm saying it or not, okay, was king of Gerar. And Abraham was living in the country, and Abraham said to his wife Sarah, okay, tell the men of this place that I am your brother, okay? And we know the story that went on, okay? Abimelech saw the beauty of Sarah and took her away from Abraham, okay, and set her aside because he wanted her, okay? And Abraham came to visit, and he saw, if you want to call it Abraham and her, it says sporting together, and he knew that they were not brother and sister, but had to be husband and wife. In the meantime, what had happened? God had plagued Abimelech. You know, there had been droughts, you know, his flocks didn't flourish, there had been sickness in his house, and he didn't know what caused all of this. And in a dream in the night, God came to Abimelech and said to him, you know, Abimelech, okay, you know, I know you didn't do this from the integrity of your heart because you didn't know. He says, but return Sarah unto her husband Abraham, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and he will bless you, and you will be healed. And that's what he did. He prayed for him and blessed him, and Abimelech was healed, and he sent Abraham away, and they departed from him. And Sarah, it says, at that time put on a veil. And that's one of the beginnings of wearing a veil, for women to wear a veil. Because of her beauty, they didn't want other men to see her and lust after her, you know, to crave her. So that was the beginning of that. So Abimelech and Abraham had a previous meeting, okay, and Abraham was dwelling in the country, and Abraham had gotten further away from Abimelech, and he had dug this well. And, you know, that's when Abimelech's men violently took this well away. Well, a well was considered private property, just like your house or your car or your other possessions. So if you went out someplace and you dug a well and you found water, you generally put a sign or insignia or some marking on that well, okay? And it was yours. It was personal property. It was not public property, okay? And you had the rights to go along with that. An example of this was given to Moses when he was in the wilderness, okay, taking the whole group of the Israelites. You know, there was probably, I don't know, 6 million of them. There was a bunch of them out in the wilderness. And he came to a king and he asked him, he says, now we want to go through your land if you would give us permission. We won't let our flocks eat your property. We will not use your wells. Okay, he says. We'll not turn to the... And, of course, the king refused and brought up all of his people to fight against Moses and the tribe, and God was with them, though, and they defeated them. But the thing was, before you went through somebody's property, you went to use their wells or whatever, you had to have permission. You just couldn't go up to someone's well and take it. And that's what Abimelech had done. Now, generally, when you hear something violently took away, that generally means that there was a fight, okay? There was injury, most likely, and maybe even death of some of the servants when somebody violently takes something away from you. So in this story, Abraham did something totally, to me, totally unexpected. Absolutely, I'm kind of shocked at this a little bit, because what it says here is that, and Abraham did something. He took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, okay? And then they made a covenant. And Abraham, it says, took 7 ewe lambs, okay, of the flock, and put them by themselves and gave them to Abimelech. And Abimelech says, what are these ewe lambs here for? What, you know, Abraham, what are these? And Abraham says, this is a witness between you and me that I have dug this well. Okay? And it says, they departed in peace. And Abraham called the place Beersheba. Well, this well is called the Well of 7, or some say the Well of 7 ewes, and it is in Beersheba today, and it is marked as Abraham's well. Now, whether it is the real well or not, you know, I can't say, but, you know, those wells, this well is 40 feet deep. You know, a person had to hand dig it. They had to pull all the materials out by bucket and put the people in and out, because it goes straight down and it's lined with stone, okay? And so there is a well there today called the Well of the 7 Youths. When a person is wronged or hurt, when an oppressor oppresses you, do you give them gifts? That's what was amazing at this story. Here's Abraham, who dug the well, did all the work, was using the well, and had it violently taken away from him. Who would even think of him giving to Abimelech? Well, you might think, oh, you would call for God to send the lightning bolt from heaven to strike them all dead. That might be what you would think Abraham would have prayed for revenge. To get back. He took what was mine. But Abraham, I think, showed us a great story here. When someone does you wrong, sit down and give them a gift. And that gift was accepted by Abimelech in this case. And they parted in peace, because if you are in disagreement with someone, if you start yelling at them, how much are they going to listen to you? How much are you going to have resolution to the issue? Abraham was a wealthy man, but he still took 7 ewes. Now, ewes are a female sheep of about 1 year old. That is a ewe. Okay? So he took 7 ewes that were valuable. They could... at the age where they could breed and populate. So a ewe was a valuable animal, and Abimelech took it. He has shown us in a very vital, violent, hard situation to how to come to peace with someone that oppresses you. To come into an agreement with 2 disparities. I don't know if I could do that or not, or if I have it in my will or not, when someone is against me, to go in peace and offer them for what they have done against you. In the New Testament, we see this also. You remember Jesus and Peter, Jesus had just finished telling all the disciples, well, I'm going to be crucified, okay? And you're all going to scatter and leave me. And they all swore, every disciple said, oh no, we'll even die with you, Jesus. We will not leave you. And Peter, I will never even deny you. Peter was swearing to Jesus, I won't deny you. And Jesus told him, of course, we know the story, before the cock crows, you'll deny me 3 times. And of course they went out, and that's exactly what they did. When they took Jesus, they all scattered and ran. Peter snuck in behind, and yet the damsel challenged him and denied and swore, and even says he cursed, of his knowledge of Christ. I can't imagine Christ going through what he did and hearing one of your favorite disciples cursing your name at a distance. But after the resurrection, Jesus, it says here, was on a shore. And the disciples were out in a boat fishing. And it said Jesus had prepared a fire and had fish and loaves on there prepared. And he says to the disciples, come and dine. And of course, Peter, oh, it's the Lord. And he wrapped his coat and jumped in the sea and ran to the Lord. But here we have a meal prepared for those that Jesus knew denied him, that ran from him. that would not accept him, even at the last moment after they promised. So what is this? This is a meal that says, I forgive you. I forgive you. And especially Peter, needed to know that. Jesus could have scolded them. He could have abandoned them. But he has shown us the way of forgiveness for those who have done us wrong. You see, those that are hungry, it says we are to feed them. And even the ones that do us wrong, most likely there's something in their lives that caused them to do wrong. And if it is within our heart and within our mind to be able to do that, we are to give to those that do us wrong. I read you see this picture back here, and I can't help but know in Revelation 3:20, this verse says this: Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man will hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. That means eat dinner, provide dinner. So behold, I stand at the door and knock. And what is that? I used to think that, and I will sup with them and them with me. What's I forgive you. Okay? I forgive you. I will come and sit down and talk in peace. And though you've done me wrong, I will give to you. This is the time of Lent when we're to take a self-introspection of our life. And we just need to ask ourselves, are there any areas of forgiveness that we need to do for those round about us? Can we follow what Abraham did? Can we follow what Jesus has done? Next week, we didn't have communion today, but next week will be communion. And that is the time when Christ says, I forgive you. Amen.